Hi there. I received an email this week from Burt from his messy shop, and he sent me a scan of his logo so I could put it on my virtual wall up here. Thank you, Billy. If you're interested, take a look at his channel. I'll have a link for it in the description box down below this video. I'm also going to put my email address, so if you want to send me something, please do. I wouldn't mind you putting your sticker up here if you like. Just please make it a high resolution scan or a high resolution photo. Now, today's project is a little 3-corner bowl, and I stole this idea from someone I'm sure you know. I'll explain that later. I'm kind of happy with the way it came out. I tried not to mimic his project too closely, so it's a little bit of a different shape. I like how it came out. And if you're interested, stick around and let's go see how this was turned. What I have is a 3 3/4 inch cube of maple. There's some spalting in here, but I'm sure it's all going to be turned away anyhow. And I'm going to try making something, an idea I stole once again from Mike Waldt, and make a 3-corner bowl out of this. So stick around, let's go over to the lathe and see how this will turn out. I'm going to put this block now, one corner into my headstock spindle, the other corner into the tailstock spindle from which I have removed the pin. And I can put my tool rest up here, just line it up on my fingernail here to make sure all 3 are lined up true and they look good. Now I can turn this around, get ready to turn this. I will be turning at 2000 RPM using a parting tool and my 3/8 inch bowl gouge, and I will be standing a little out of the way. The only thing this is running on is friction, so I need to keep it very tight in there to get it to work properly. I also need to take very light cuts, and I've just freshly sharpened my gouge. Right, that's actually going to be a little small. This is my go, no-go block. Because this is a little smaller than this, I know it's too small for my jaws, so I'm going to have to come up here a little higher. That should be good right there. Just need to round this up. I'm going to do a little bit of a concave shape to this, just up to about here. Still a little bit of a flat spot right there. We'll just take it up a little bit higher. All right, just round this a little bit better. A little bit of torn grain right in that area. This is all looking very good, except of course on some of the end grain areas. And even that's not bad. Just want to try to clean this up a little bit. Much better than it was. I think I'm just going to take a little tiny bit more. There's gouge there I want to get rid of if I can. And I think that's about as good as I'm going to get that. So I want to clean up this little crease here, and then I will sand this. Yes, a lot happier with that. To sand this, I'm going to be using this sanding disc on my drill, and I have moved my dust port up here to take the dust away, which has blocked the view of one camera. So now I'm going to be turning this at 500 RPM in reverse so the dust will go into the dust port. Let's see what kind of job I can do. I'm starting with 120 grit. And I'll be wearing my Trend Air Shield Pro to keep the dust out of my lungs as well. Not looking too bad. Pleased with that. I'm just going to continue going through all the other grits, and I'll be back after I finish the sanding. Alright, I used this up to 220 grit, and to tell you the truth, I've never really had great luck with this. Maybe I just don't practice enough, but my favorite way of sanding is just to take a 1-inch strip and hold it on there as it's spinning, and that's what I did with this. When I got up to here, of course I'm doing too much air, so I would simply lock the spindle and do it by hand. So I've done up to 400 grit. I'm very pleased with that. Now I'm going to put this into the chuck and reverse it so I can do the top of the bowl. And to remove this end, I'm just going to use a hand saw. After this is cut off, I'll be back, put it in the chuck, and turn the top of the bowl. Now, there's a fairly large crack right here, which I partially filled with thin CA glue. And I don't think that's going to be a problem because I'll turn almost all of that away. But there's another one right here that comes right up to the edge. So I'm also going to add a little CA glue to that. And I'll let that set for a while. Then I'll come back and turn it. Looks like it continues all the way across here, but that will also be turned away. I'm only worried about the very top up here. I brought the tail stock up with the live center in it without the pin again and used that to help center this. Then I tightened this up and now it should be ready to turn. Alright, I believe that CA glue is cured enough. Now I'm going to be turning this as usual quite fast at 2000 RPM. I'm going to be using my 3/8 inch bowl gouge, and I'm going to start up here, work my way in. I want to leave this support as long as I can. So I'll take out as much of the bulk as I can before I remove this and take out the center part. Now I'm getting to the point where the tail stock is in the way. I can't swing this around enough to really get in there. So I'm going to have to remove as much of this as I can and then get the tail stock out of the way. When cutting something out like this, I like as much as possible to use a push cut toward the headstock. That way I'm not putting any sideways pressure on there and taking the chance on ripping it right out of there. So as long as I can, I'll go in this direction. Alright, now I'll just get that tail stock out of the way and I can get inside there better. I think that's not too bad. It just needs to be sanded, and I need to take a sanding block and do these edges. They're rough to start with. How many times have you heard someone say, I'm just going to take one more real thin little cut and have it blow up on them? Well, I've got a very small ridge right there I want to get rid of. It's going to be very tough to sand out. So I'm going to give this a shot with my 1/4 inch bowl gouge. And you can laugh at me later if this doesn't work. Okay, all I really wanted to do was move that down off of these wings to where I can actually sand. And I think that's good enough. But not being that bright, I'm going to try one more cut. And that's a little better. I'm not going to push my luck any further. I'll use sanding blocks on these edges. Sandpaper with my hand on the inside as much as I can, and I'll be back. Alright, I'm going to start with 120 grit. Just do all 3 sides. Then I'll go up to 150, 180, and all the way up to 400 grit. Alright, I'm very happy with this. Nice and smooth. That's sanded to 400 grit. The outside curve here is not too bad as far as sharpness, but the inside one, that's just like a razor. So when I sand the inside, I'm going to run sandpaper along here a little bit too and just dull that a little bit. My usual sanding is done like this. I'll just hold it in there while it's turning. But with this, I don't think so. These corners coming around here could do a lot of damage to me. I would much rather have this thing destroyed than my fingers. So I'll be using this on the inside up to here, and then I will be doing these corners by hand with the lathe stopped. It's going to take a little while, but I've always believed anything worth doing is worth doing right. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll be turning this at 500 RPM in reverse, so the dust will go up to the dust port. I've started with the 120 grit, so when I do the corners I'll start with 120 as well. And I'm going to work my way up again right through 400. Still have a little more to do on the inside. That's not as smooth as I would like. I'll be back when this is finished. Well, I'm quite pleased. Sanded up to 400 grit. Feels very nice. Now the trick is going to be reverse chucking this because I want to turn the bottom away. Now my challenge is, how do I drive this? I can't very well just put it against the chuck. That's not going to work. On the bottom, I sanded down the tenon that was there because I did not have the center marked. And I wanted to be able to take my center finder and have it ride around on this surface so I could find the center. Alright, so I've done that. Now for the driving, I found this dirty old softball that's been following me around for about 40 years. And I put a piece of double-sided tape around this part and then a strip of 400 grit sandpaper. Now that's not much of a friction to drive it with, but it's a whole lot more than the surface of this softball. What I want to do now is put it on that sandpaper on the center as well as I can. Bring the tail stock up, my live center in there. And now if I take a pencil and hold it where that wing is, turn them around. Alright, I can see it's out a little bit. This needs to come in just a bit. Try that again. It's too much. This could take some time just trying to get this balanced. I think I'm out about a 64th of an inch. I might want to just leave that alone. Tighten this up. Now, this end is definitely not going to be true because that's not perfect, but it's not bad. What I want to do is turn this off a bit because I've got a couple of small flat spots here that I want to turn away, and I want to make the bottom a little bit concave. Let me just see how this looks. I can certainly live with that. So now I'll get my turning smock on, get my tools out, and get ready to turn this. I'm going to turn this at 1000 RPM. I think that should be enough without overdoing it. I'm using my 3/8 inch spindle gouge, sharpened up freshly. Let's see what happens. Alright, before I go any further, I'm going to sand the bottom. I won't bother showing you that. This little nub is now small enough that I can just carve that away, and I want to use the drill press and drill a recess for my logo coin. So I'll sand this and then I'll be back. Alright, I'm going to try something that might be just as stupid as a lot of the things I do. I've got masking tape on here. Now masking tape is not real strong, but I'm thinking even a little bit of help is better than no help. I'm going to try turning this almost entirely off, and if I should happen to actually turn it off, I'm counting on this masking tape to actually hold it up there and not let it fly all over the shop. Let's just see if this is actually going to work. I'm going to use my 3/8 inch spindle gouge again at 1000 RPM. And that's close enough. Just a little bit with a chisel. I should be able to take that off. And then I'm going to drill the recess for my logo coin. Well, I managed to chisel it off fairly flat. Then I used my center finder, going around a couple of times to find the center of this. Now I'm going to take it over to the drill press and use the 15/16 inch Forstner bit to drill my recess for the logo coin. I'm going to use the softball again, just because I don't want to put these points down on the solid surface. It might just break them off. Now the trick, of course, is going to be to hold this thing level as I do this. Now I'll have to get the logo coin and see if that's deep enough. And there it is, it's finished. It's not the best thing I've ever turned, but it's almost certainly the most recent. Well, I want to thank Mike Waldt for showing me how this was done. Now I'm going to finish it with mineral oil. After it dries, I'll take some photographs or a video of it turning, and I'll put that at the end of this video. Take a look if you like. In the meantime, thank you for dropping in, and I hope you'll come back next time. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't done that before. Click the like button if you like what you're seeing. And between now and next time I see you, have a great time in your shop and be safe. Take care now.